Hi, this is JR, and this is a refutation of the doctrine of incurable illness. It's also, and more fundamentally, about spiritual authority, but in particular in regard to the spiritual authority or not of pronunciations or declarations of incurable illness. So I'm going to actually give a little bit of an ad-lib version of the presentation, and then I'll read it. When we are hearing a infant crying, or making any noise, we can tell something from the spirit of the infant, even without there being any words involved. Crying and laughter are very distinct. Different kinds of crying are distinct, like a cry that's a distress cry, and then a cry that's more of a hunger cry, or some more minor or moderate expression. Similarly, in the realm of words, when someone uses a word like mama, or calls our name like our regular proper name, we can hear in their tone of voice or in their spirit, in the way they're speaking, we can hear something distinct from the actual word. So we can hear, is there curiosity, is there anger, is there excitement, is there fear? What is it when someone yells out mom, or dad, or I love you, or any number of words that we would use? All words that we would use, there's some spirit, there's something being communicated through the words, but the words themselves are not the communication. They are the mechanism or the medium of the communication. And when we're dealing with things like email and books, we see the words, and the tone is still carried through the words, but it's not nearly as clearly carried as hearing the sounds. Or even in this case, I'm making a video so you can see my expressions, and that will convey information that would not be available just through reading a transcript of this. So that's all introductory comment to everything I'm about to say now, where I'm going to talk about incurable illness in particular, and refute the idea that there's such a thing as an incurable illness. There simply is no such thing. There are immune system functions such as vomiting or coughing, or tearing of the eyes, and sneezing, sweating. There are organs, there are blood glucose levels, there are cholesterol levels, there are fat levels. There's all these presences physiologically: vitamins, density of bone. There's all these presences. But incurable illness actually isn't a physiological presence. It's a linguistic convenience. It's not inherently bad. It is inherently limited. And I'm going to use some what we might think of as derogatory or judgmental language in regard to the term incurable illness, but that's really just to distinguish it from things that are more practically useful, or that are practically useful in a different way. So I'm ready to begin with the reading portion of the presentation here. I'm going to check my time briefly. So, in the beginning, a spiritual authority is at the root of all religious traditions. There is an author at the origin of all teachings and all rituals. And there is much in common throughout the many variations of religious traditions. One of the things in common is the recognition that some teachers are more or less able than other teachers. Some people that might be called prophets may be imprecise in their understanding. The people that may be called wise by the masses may actually be fools. So popularity is not a measure of accuracy. Popular ideas have included the idea that the Earth is flat, or that the planets rotate around the Earth in perfect circles rather than in elliptical orbits around the Sun. or that real estate prices always rise, or that there's such a thing as an incurable illness, such as scurvy. Despite the popularity of these theories, they may be recognized by you as contrary to obvious evidence, as in false, or at least questionable, as in there could be other valid ways to communicate the underlying reality that could be more precise and practically useful. For instance, when there is a particular range of a certain vitamin present in an organism, certain symptoms predictably arise, and a label in language that can be given to the arising of certain symptoms is scurvy. Scurvy is not an objective physiological reality, but just a linguistic comment, a linguistic concept or categorization. We could even say it's a linguistic comment. That would fit. That was actually a mistake on my part, but that would fit. Even the idea of an incurable illness is itself the symptom of a certain level of understanding about physiological development and nutrition. People who believe in the existence of incurable illness are likely to use that term, and to believe that someone diagnosed and labeled as having an incurable illness actually has an illness that is in fact incurable. So the foolish could believe that someone diagnosed as having scurvy has something that is incurable, rather than correctly interpreting the signals from the organism, or otherwise interpreting the signals from the organism, that there would be value in providing the nourishment of a certain vitamin. That's an equally valid interpretation of the symptoms that might be labeled as scurvy. A person with a certain amount of a particular vitamin does not have an incurable scurvy. They simply have a particular amount of various vitamins, which can be very easy to change. In other words, the application of the label incurable illness is a curse. There's no such thing as having scurvy physiologically. Scurvy exists only in language, not in physiology. Different levels of vitamins exist physiologically. That is why no one has ever found a scurvy. You can't cut someone open and find a scurvy in there, because there's no such thing. One cannot physically find a darkness, or a silence, or a blindness, or a scurvy, because they are not physical, but only linguistic. All incurable illnesses are diagnostic labels given from a particular linguistic model as a curse. We could think of those diagnostic labels as acts of psychological warfare, as distinct from simply measuring the presence of various nutrients and categorizing the developmental maturity and functionality of various organs and physiological systems. So, as with diagnostic labels like incurable illness and scurvy, people can learn traditions and repeat phrases they learned from someone else. But is there any authority at all in the words themselves? Is there authority in the words, or is the only authority in the spirit or heart of the one using the words? Parents, think about when your children call out to you. Do you listen only to the words they say, or do you listen to the way they say them? Do you listen to the spirit of the message, of the communication? Even before an infant can use any words at all, we can hear their spirit in their voice. We can identify crying as distinct from laughter. We can identify different kinds of crying, from distress to disappointment. Many teachers can even claim that their own teaching is the only correct teaching, and that only certain words in particular are the correct ones, and that all other formations in language are incorrect because they don't match the only correct one, allegedly. They may say that some words are more sacred than other words. They may be fanatically focused on words. They may have no focus whatsoever on spirit. In the extreme, many teachers can claim that their teachings are so obviously superior to all other teachings that the other teachings must be ridiculed or even exterminated, so as to keep their own teachings safe from the apparently immense threat of a teaching that is allegedly vastly inferior. Some of those teachers call themselves spiritual teachers. Some call themselves political leaders. They divide people against each other based on words. They invest their time in arguing and struggling and invading and warring. It can be very dangerous to follow such leaders. Those who are called wise may be revealed as fools. Those who are called fools may be revealed as wise. We have heard or read of these things for thousands of years, we as humans, in traditions like the Hebrew tradition, the Christian tradition, the Taoist tradition, the Buddhist tradition, the Hindu tradition. Popularity is not a measure of accuracy. What people call wise may be later revealed as foolishness. What people call foolishness may later be revealed as practically useful.